It was supposed to be just another quiet afternoon in my small cabin office, tucked away at the edge of the neighborhood. Papers were spread across my desk, coffee steaming beside me, and the sound of the old wall clock ticking filled the room. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, and for a moment it felt like the world had slowed down. I didn't expect anyone, and honestly, I liked it that way. But peace never lasts long when you have an HOA president like Karen patrolling the area. Karen wasn't just any HOA figure. She was the type who believed she owned the air we breathed. She had this way of storming into situations uninvited, always ready to lecture or demand answers, especially if she thought someone wasn't following the rules. And today, apparently, I was on her list. Without so much as a knock, the door slammed open, the cold air rushing in with her. Her voice was already mid-sentence, accusing, sharp, and unstoppable. But then, she froze, literally stopped mid-breath, mid-step. Her eyes widened like she'd just walked into something she wasn't meant to see. Because sitting across from me at the table was not a neighbor, not a friend, but a decorated four-star general, his crisp uniform catching the afternoon light. Maps and classified-looking documents lay between us. It's the kind of thing that made you instantly question what was really going on. Karen's expression shifted from outrage to shock, but she didn't speak. She just stood there, blinking, as if her brain was trying to catch up with what her eyes were telling her. The general glanced up slowly, calm and steady, meeting her gaze without a word. The tension in that small cabin could have been cut with a knife, and that's when it happened, something so unexpected it made even the general lean forward. But that is where things truly begin. Karen's hand tightened around the edge of the doorframe, like she wasn't sure whether to step in or run back out. Her eyes darted between me and the general, then down to the spread of papers across the table. You could see it in her face. Her mind was racing, trying to fit the scene into her usual neighborhood gossip box. But this didn't fit any category she knew. The general didn't flinch. His posture stayed rigid, his voice low but firm as he said, "We were in the middle of something important." It wasn't a threat, but the way he said it made the air in the cabin feel heavier. Karen swallowed hard, her usual loud confidence replaced by an uneasy silence. I glanced at her, half wondering how much to explain, but this wasn't the moment for full truths. "Karen, this isn't what you think," I said, keeping my tone calm, though my heart was pounding. And this wasn't some casual meeting. The general's visit had been planned for weeks, tied to something far beyond HOA drama. The maps weren't just maps. The notes weren't just notes. They were pieces of something much bigger and much more dangerous. Karen, being Karen, tried to regain her footing. I heard strange noises earlier," she stammered, "and I saw vehicles outside, big ones, not from around here." Her eyes flicked toward the window, where the faint outline of a military SUV could still be seen parked. Just beyond the tree line, the general's gaze followed hers. "Observation skills," he muttered, almost to himself. "Useful. Sometimes." Karen didn't know whether she'd just been complimented or warned. The way her jaw tightened told me she was leaning toward the latter. The air felt charged, like we were standing on the edge of something neither of us could stop. And the strange part was, the real reason for the general's visit hadn't even come up yet. Stat was still to come. And when it did, nothing about this neighborhood door, any of us would be the same again. Karen finally stepped fully inside, the door clicking shut behind her. The sound felt louder than it should have, almost final, like she had just crossed into territory she couldn't step back from. She kept glancing at the papers, the red markings on the maps, the small black case sitting near the general's elbow. I could tell she wanted to ask 100 questions at once, but the general's steady presence kept her at bay. "Why here? Why in your cabin?" She asked me, her voice low but still edged with suspicion. I hesitated, my eyes flicking toward the general. He gave the slightest nod, granting me permission to say just enough, but not too much. Because this place is off the grid. No HOA patrols, no cameras, no curious eyes. Usually, the last word hung in the air, and Karen bristled. The general leaned forward, his hands folded on the table. "We're dealing with a situation that requires privacy," he said. "A situation that could affect more than just this neighborhood." His gaze locked on Karen's, holding it for a moment too long. Outside, the faint hum of an engine broke the silence. I glanced toward the window and caught sight of another SUV pulling into the dirt clearing. This one wasn't military blacked out. Windows, no plates, and moving slow, like the driver was taking stock of the place. Karen noticed too. "That's not one of yours?" she asked the general. His jaw tightened. "No, and that means they found us sooner than expected." In that moment, the tension in the cabin doubled. The general reached for the black case, snapping it open. To reveal rows of neatly arranged devices I didn't recognize, Karen took a half step back. "What exactly have you gotten yourself into?" she demanded. I didn't answer. The truth was, I was still trying to figure that out myself. But one thing was certain, this was no longer just about a meeting. Something far bigger had arrived. At our doorstep, and it wasn't going to wait politely for us to be ready. The rumble outside grew louder, and the windows rattled as more vehicles appeared down the winding path toward the cabin. Karen's eyes widened, and even the general's usual calm seemed to flicker for a brief second. I could feel the walls closing in. The quiet afternoon replaced by a storm of uncertainty and looming danger. Karen shifted on her feet, her hands clenching into fists. "You've been hiding something in this neighborhood?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "And what happens if the neighbors find out?" The general's eyes darkened. "If the neighbors find out, it could put everyone here in serious danger. That's why we needed secrecy away from prying eyes and meddling hands." I swallowed hard, heart racing. The truth was even more complicated than Karen realized. This wasn't just about neighborhood privacy or HOA rules. It was about something bigger, something that could change the course of more than just our quiet little community. Suddenly, the cabin door shook with a hard knock, sharp and urgent. Karen instinctively took a step toward it, but the general held up a hand. "No," he said firmly, "not yet." Outside, voices echoed low, serious, and tense. I could hear footsteps crunching over the gravel, a murmur of orders being whispered, the unmistakable buzz of radios. Someone was coming, and they weren't here for a friendly visit. Karen's face turned pale as she looked at me. "What is all this?" Before I could answer, the general reached into the black case again and pulled out a small device that blinked faintly in the dim light. He pressed a button, and suddenly the cabin was filled with a low humming, invisible shield. Of some kind, the knock came again, louder this time. The tension snapped like a wire stretched a tight dot. Karen took a step back, eyes flicking to the window, where shadowy figures were gathering. The general's voice was steady but urgent. "We don't have much time." And just like that, the quiet cabin became the center of a storm no one saw coming. The question was, who would come out of it unscathed? Just as the hum from the device settled into a low, steady vibration, the cabin's old phone, long forgotten on the corner table, suddenly rang. The shrill sound sliced through the tense silence like a warning siren. Karen jumped, her eyes wide with disbelief. The general frowned and glanced at me, his calm facade cracking for the first time. "I didn't bring a phone," he said quietly. I hesitated, then reached over and picked it up. The caller ID was blocked. With a shaky hand, I answered. A distorted voice came through the line, cold and clipped. "You think hiding here will keep you safe. You're deeper in this than you realize." The line went dead before I could respond. Karen's breath caught. "What does that mean? Who was that?" The general's face grew serious. "It means we've been compromised from the inside. Someone here in this neighborhood is feeding information to the wrong people." The room seemed to close in even more. Karen's suspicion turned inward, her eyes narrowing as she looked around, suddenly unsure who to trust. "I knew something felt off," she muttered. But before anyone could say more, the device on the table beeped rapidly, flashing red. The shield was failing. Outside, the voices grew louder, more aggressive. The figures at the window began moving toward the door. The door exploded inward with a thunderous crash, splintered wood flying as several armed figures flooded into the cabin. The room instantly turned. Chaotic shouts filled the air, the sharp click of weapons cocking, and the air thickened with tension. Karen ducked behind my desk, her usual bravado replaced by raw fear. The general didn't hesitate. He reached into the black case one last time, pulling out a small device and pressing a button. A burst of bright light flashed across the room, momentarily blinding everyone. In that brief second of chaos, I grabbed Karen's hand and pulled her toward the back exit, a narrow door that led to the woods behind the cabin. We slipped out into the dense trees just as the attackers regrouped inside. Frustrated shouts echoing behind us. The cold air hit our faces, sharp and real. Karen was breathing hard, eyes wide with disbelief. "What was all that about?" she gasped. The general caught up with us moments later, his face grim. "The neighborhood is caught in the middle of a covert operation. The people who broke in were after classified intelligence I've been helping protect, intel that could change national security." Karen looked at me, then back at the general, struggling to process everything. "And you brought all of this here, to our neighborhood. It was the safest place we could find off the grid. Quiet. Until now." As we moved deeper into the woods, the unexpected happened. My phone buzzed, and I picked a message from an unknown number. "You're not safe yet. The real threat is closer than you think." Karen's face went pale. "Closer? You mean someone here?" The general's eyes met mine with a weight I hadn't seen before. "Yes, and they've been watching us all along." In that moment, the true battle wasn't just outside the cabinet, was right here, hidden among neighbors we thought we knew. And as the sun dipped behind the trees, I realized this was only the beginning. We found a safe spot deeper in the woods, where the general could catch his breath and explain more clearly. It turned out the intelligence we were protecting was part of a larger operation to stop a threat that could have impacted not just our neighborhood, but the entire country. That's why the general had chosen this quiet cabin office for planning. It was off the radar, away from prying eyes. Karen, who had come in demanding control and rules, was now quiet, realizing how much bigger this was than HOA disputes or neighborhood drama. She admitted she hadn't understood the full picture before, but was ready to help. We all had too, because trust and teamwork suddenly meant more than ever. As the night wore on, the general coordinated with his team to secure the perimeter and call for backup. We stayed alert, knowing the danger wasn't fully gone, but at least, for now, the immediate threat was contained. The people who had broken in were dealt with by authorities who arrived just in time. But the real challenge was uncovering the traitor who had leaked information from inside the neighborhood. The experience taught me something important, that sometimes the biggest battles happen right where you least expect them. And that people can surprise you, whether it's Karen stepping up when it mattered or neighbors who might be hiding secrets. This wasn't just a story about an HOA conflict or a random cabin meeting. It was a reminder that beneath the surface of everyday life, there can be unexpected challenges, strength waiting to be discovered. So, If you ever think your quiet neighborhood is just that quiet, think again. Sometimes the most intense stories unfold just beyond the front door. And you never know who might be involved. Thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride. If you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.